Through you, Mr. Chair, I can confirm that it is 4 p.m. and we are now live streaming and recording.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. And we have a quorum here. And before it starts, I'm the chair, John Clausen. Then we have Sandra Marsh and Brenda Stend. Okay. I'd like to start the meeting by asking that the land recognition statement be read out by Sarah. Could you please do that for us? Thank you.
Yes, certainly. We begin this meeting by acknowledging the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe peoples, many whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, this gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and acknowledging remind us that our great standard of is directly related to the resources and friendships of the Indigenous peoples. Through you, Mr. Chair, you may proceed with your introduction.
Okay. What I'd like to ask our members, if any of them have any disclosure for pecuniary interest, any general nature, and I say I haven't. Sandra?
I have none.
And Brenda?
I have none.
Okay, thank you. Then I will, before I go any further, I've introduced the panels. Now I'd like to present the opening statement. This is an electronic meeting of the Committee of Adjustment for the Town of Pelham. Everyone present and viewing at home via live stream will be given an opportunity to comment on the applications being heard. Please address your comments and questions through the chair. This public meeting has been called to satisfy the requirements of the Planning Act and Council bylaws. Notice of this meeting has been given by prepaid first-class mail to all persons listed as owners in the last revised assessment roll within 60 meters, 200 feet of the subject properties. In addition, a public notice sign has been posted on the land. Information has been provided on the town's Committee of Adjustment page, and the signs I can confirm have all been posted. Agencies commenting on applications may request that certain conditions be opposed should an application be approved. Voicing objections to these conditions will not adversely affect the committee's decision. The purpose of the application, no relative correspondence will be heard, following which the applicant will be given the opportunity to address the application. Pre-registered participants will remain in the waiting room until you are called to speak. Please be advised once you finish speaking, you will be removed from the Zoom meeting room. If you are live streaming at home and you wish to submit a comment to be read during the public portion, you may do so by emailing clerks@pelham.ca. Comments received following the public portions will not be considered. At the conclusion of the discussion, the committee will render a decision and advise of any applicable conditions. Specific wording for conditions will be determined by the committee following the public portion of this hearing. Copies of the decisions will be mailed to the applicant, agent, and members of the public that have submitted comments. Notice of decisions can also be obtained by a request to the Secretary Treasurer. Any person, corporation, or public body has the right to appeal either the decision itself or the conditions of consent on to the Ontario Land Tribunal within 20 days of the decision for minor variances and 20 days of the mailing of the decision for consent applications. We ask that all applicants are mindful of background noise for the duration of the meeting. If you are not speaking, it is recommended that you move yourself. Committee members are asked to raise their hand if you would like to speak, and when we vote. Applicants, agents, and attendees are advised that they are free to leave the webinar once a decision has been made on the application. Okay. Now I ask Sarah, has there been any request for a withdrawal or adjournment?
Through you, Mr. Chair, there has not been.
Okay. We have the first. We have 3 application hearings. And the way we'll be hearing application A12/2022P, the 674 Cambero Road. Now, I'd like to announce now that we're going to hear the consent application B9 to 2022P, that's 664 Mettler. We have to hear that one first. And if that one is granted, then the minor variance, the A3 2022P application is required. So that would be the only changes we make today. And that I'd like to start with the application at 674 Cambero Road, please, Sarah.
Absolutely, thank you. I'd ask Ms. Miller to please share her screen. Committee of Adjustment hearing Tuesday, October 4th, 2022. All Town of Pelham in-person Committee of Adjustment hearings have been canceled. Instead, the town is holding all Committee of Adjustment hearings electronically via Zoom. Please note that no decisions have been made prior to this public meeting. This presentation is based upon the Town of Pelham's Planning Department report and analysis. All comments received from commenting agencies and the public have been forwarded in full to the Committee of Adjustment members for their consideration. Participants are reminded, please ensure your background is free from offensive or vulgar material. If inappropriate material is visible, you will be removed from the meeting. Vulgar or offensive language will also not be tolerated. If inappropriate language is used, you will be removed from the meeting. Participants will remain in the waiting room until you are called to speak. Once your comments have been heard by the committee, your microphone will be muted. Once voting on an item has taken place, participants will be removed from the meeting completely. You may resume viewing the meeting via live stream. Please note that the Zoom chat is not monitored nor recommended to contact the Clerk's Department during the meeting. Please contact us via email at clerks@pelham.ca. This email address is being monitored during the public portion of the meeting. Decorum. The Committee of Adjustment is a formal public hearing requiring decorum. This means that all comments are to be made through the chair. If you have pre-registered to speak, you'll be given the opportunity to address the committee at the public portion of the meeting. If you are live streaming and wish to submit a comment live, please use the clerks@pelham.ca email address. Please note that comments must be received during the public portion of the meeting, otherwise they will not be considered. Disrespectful comments will also not be tolerated. Please note that if decorum is lost, the meeting may be recessed and persons will be asked to leave. Public portion of the meeting. To allow for an efficient meeting, each member of the public will be provided the opportunity to speak to the committee during the public portion of the meeting. Please note that after all members of the public have been given the opportunity to speak, the applicant or agent will have the opportunity to address the public comments and concerns at one time. Our first application this evening is A12-674 Cambero Road. The subject land is located on the south side of Cambero Road, known locally as 674 Cambero Road. The minor variance application requests relief from Section 9.2E, minimum interior side yard, requesting a minimum interior side yard setback of 1 meter, whereas a minimum of 3 meters is required. Please note that the existing carport is to be removed and replaced with the proposed addition. To date, the following comments have been received. From the Building Department, see conditions. Public Works, see conditions. Niagara Region, regional staff offer no archaeological requirements. Regional staff have no objection to the proposed garage addition, provided that no plumbing or living space is included. Regional staff offer no objection to the minor variance application. Minor variance tests. Number 1, is the variance minor in nature? Yes, the reduced interior side yard setback is a result of the existing driveway's location in relation to the eastern property line. The setback is not anticipated to have any negative impacts on the streetscape and is in keeping with the setback of the existing carport. The use of the land will remain appropriate and compatible with the surrounding area. Is the variance desirable for the development or use of the land? Yes, the proposed development will facilitate an addition to the dwelling for the purpose of a 2-car garage. The existing carport will be removed and replaced with a garage and 2-story addition to the dwelling. The reduced interior side yard setback is a result of the existing driveway's location in relation to the eastern property line. The scale of the addition is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood and will update this contemporary home. Further, the construction of the addition will not result in any tree removal on the subject land. Staff is of the opinion the requested variance is desirable and will improve the functionality of the dwelling. Does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? Yes, the setback is intended to maintain access to side yards, provide adequate distance between dwellings, and provide adequate room for drainage. The existing driveway and carport is located on the east side of the dwelling. In order to provide for a two-car garage, the variance is necessary to provide adequate space for the addition. The existing carport will be removed. The west side of the dwelling maintains a large setback to the western property line. The setback provides for adequate rear yard access and space should the existing septic system require an expansion. The neighboring property to the east maintains a large setback to the property line, and as such, no issues of compatibility are anticipated. Does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning of the official plan? Yes, the official plan designates the lands as urban living area / built-up area. The purpose of the urban area designation is to recognize the existing residential areas of Font Hill and Fenwick and promote the efficient use of existing and planned infrastructure by creating the opportunity for various forms of residential intensification where appropriate. The proposal is generally consistent in built form, scale, and massing with existing development and the character of the residential area. Planning staff are of the opinion that the proposal makes efficient use of the land, will not result in the overbuilding of the property, will not alter the view, sightlines, or personal enjoyment of the subject property or any neighboring properties, and should not negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood with regard to land use and compatibility, traffic, privacy, and stormwater runoff. In planning staff's opinion, the application is consistent with the PPS and conforms to provincial, regional, and local plans. Planning staff recommend that application number A12/2022P be approved subject to the following conditions. That the applicant apply for and receive a building permit for the proposed addition prior to construction. That the applicant obtain all necessary septic permits prior to building permit issuance to the satisfaction of the Niagara region. And that the applicant submit an upgraded lot grading and drainage plan demonstrating that drainage neither relies on nor negatively impacts neighboring properties to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works or designate. If you wish to receive a copy of the Notice of Decision, please contact the Secretary-Treasurer in writing as soon as possible. Holly Wilford, Secretary-Treasurer to the Committee of Adjustment, 20 Pelham Town Square, P.O. Box 400, Font Hill, Ontario, hwilford@pelham.ca. This contact information can also be found on the Town of Pelham's website.
Thank you. Have we got the applicant?
We do have the applicants with us. I would just ask Ms. Miller to bring them into the meeting. The applicants are Mr. and Mrs. Cohet.
Sarah,
Yes.
you made some comment about the Regents has no objection to the addition as long as there's no living space above the garage.
So
Or did I hear wrong?
That is correct. That's a preliminary comment, and what we've done is added the condition that they receive all necessary septic permits as required before building permit issuance. So they will have conversations with the region at that time. Their potential concerns are respecting the septic system. However, the variance is for the setback right now, and that's where our discussion lies.
Okay, I just want to make sure that they won't run into a problem.
Absolutely.
Okay,
The applicants are aware and they have spoken with the planning department.
Okay, thank you. Hello there, Mr. and Mrs. Goot. I've read your letter. Have you got any other further comments you wish us to make to us? Feel free to speak.
No, I don't think we have any further comments. Thank you for considering our application.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Does Sandra or Brenda, do you have any questions to ask? Go ahead, Sandra.
I just have a comment. I think the proposed addition is going to look very nice on the home. When I drove by, I thought that's going to look really nice. And as long as there's still a way to access the property by the other side yard without going onto the neighbor's property, I feel this could be supported.
Okay, I agree with you. Brenda?
I agree with Sandra's comments.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any further questions, Sarah. I think we can, unless there's any comments from the public, I think if somebody wants to make a motion, I will accept the motion right now.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would just like to close the public portion of the meeting.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No
Yeah.
problem. We did not have any pre-registered speakers. Let me just double check with our email address. Okay, excellent. It is 4:15 p.m. and we have received no emails on the subject application. Therefore, you may move to committee input.
Okay, then. Who will make a recommendation? Senator, go ahead.
I will make the recommendation that file A12 2022P 674 Cambero Road, Pelham, that the application for minor variance for the minimum interior side yard of 1 meter be granted based on the following reasons: that the variance is minor in nature as there's no adverse impacts are anticipated. The intent of the zoning bylaw is maintained. The intent of the OP is maintained. The proposal is desirable for the land as it facilitates an addition to the dwelling of a double-car garage. This application is granted without prejudice to any other application in the town of Pelham. No objections were received from commenting agencies or abutting property owners. The committee considered all written and oral comments and agrees with the minor variance report analysis and recommendation that this application meets the Planning Act test for minor variance. The conditions with this application are that they obtain all necessary building permits, obtain all necessary septic permits from the Niagara region, and they submit an updated lot grading and drainage plan.
Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Brenda. Noted. That's called for. All in favor of granting these motion? I see we all have granted. Yeah. Thank you. The minor variance is granted. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Cahoot, and good luck. It's going to look good. You're right behind me, so I'll be a pleasure watching what's going on. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, our next application this evening is B9 2022. As you've indicated, we're moving this consent up before the variance, as the variance is dependent on the consent. And I would ask Ms. Miller to please share our presentation for B9. B9 664 Metler Road. Subject parcel is located on the south side of Metler Road, lying east of Balfour Street, known locally as 664 Metler Road in the town of Pelham. Application is made for consent to convey 1355.6 square meters of land, being Part 2, to be added to the abutting property to the west. Part 1, known municipally as 668 Metler Road. Part 3 is to be retained for continued residential use of the dwelling known as 664 Metler Road. Please note that this application is being heard in conjunction with A13-2022. To date, the following comments have been received. From the Building Department, no comment. Public Works, no comment. NPCA, the NPCA does not offer objections to the approval of the applications for this property. NPCA staff would advise that should any works be proposed in or around the watercourse that crosses the property or within the 15-meter watercourse buffer, works permits would be required from this agency. Applicable studies could also be necessary at that time. Niagara Region. Through the boundary adjustment process, no new lots are being created. Therefore, a minimum of 1 acre of usable lot area should be provided for the septic system purposes. Staff acknowledge that the proposal is for a boundary adjustment with no new development. As such, regional staff offer no archaeological requirements for this application. Regional staff do not object to the proposed consent application, and no public comments were received at the time of writing this report. Planning staff is of the opinion that the proposed boundary lot adjustment is consistent with the PPS and conforms to the provincial, regional, and local plans. The resulting parcels comply with applicable zoning bylaw regulations and should not negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood with respect to traffic, privacy, and stormwater management. Planning staff recommend that application number B9 2022P be approved, subject to the following conditions: that all necessary zoning approvals be obtained for Part 3, that Part 2 merge with Part 1, that the applicant confirm no existing utilities cross the proposed new property line. Should any services cross the new property line, the applicant is responsible for their relocation and/or removal so that utilities do not cross the new property line. That the Secretary-Treasurer be provided with a registrable legal description of the subject parcel, together with a copy of the deposited reference plan, if applicable, for use in the issuance of the Certificate of Consent. That the final certification fee of $411 payable to the Treasurer, Town of Pelham, be submitted to the Secretary-Treasurer. All costs associated with fulfilling these conditions shall be borne by the applicant. If you wish to receive a copy of the notice of decision, please contact the Secretary Treasurer in writing as soon as possible. Holly Wilford, Secretary Treasurer to the Committee of Adjustment, 20 Pelham Town Square, P.O. Box 400, Fonthill, Ontario, hwilford@pelham.ca. This contact information can also be found on the Town of Pelham's website.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And Mr. Chair, we do have the applicant, Mr. Stephen Bedford, and the agent, Mr. Stephen, and the applicant, Mr. Ted Ebert, with us.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Miller, can you please bring them into the meeting?
I have, as we start, not a question for them, but a question for Andrew Edwards. Part 3 has to have a rezoning done to it. And I suppose this council doesn't agree to the Part 3 rezoning. Does that make the consent application void?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I believe I can address that. The zoning approval required for this application is the minor variance that would follow should the consent be approved. So again, if the consent is not approved, then the variance would not be applicable.
Okay. I was just wondering about why the zoning situation came in. Okay.
So the lot, sorry, I can clarify. So the lot created from the consent would not be sufficient to our zoning bylaw, and they require the amendment.
Okay. Okay. Okay, Mr. Bedford.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the Committee of Adjustment. Thank you for hearing us this afternoon. Mr. Ebert is here and he is acting as owner on the property. And I've been working with staff through this lot line adjustment and minor variance process. And as you saw from the staff report, we meet all of the policy requirements, and also, except for the frontage of the one property, we meet all the zoning requirements. And we would just ask that the committee consider the staff recommendation and approve the staff recommendation as presented. I'm happy to respond to any questions.
Okay, thank you. I saw that you have a metal shop on Part 2. So I'm assuming that when 2 and 1 merge, the metal business will be part of the property owner of Part 1, correct?
That's correct. And it's not a business, it's a workshop. And so, it's a residential workshop. It's not a business.
Okay. And why is this taking place? Why are you making these boundary adjustments?
So the owner of Part 1 is the brother of the land to the south, and the owner of the land to the south has passed away, and the owner is responsible for disposing of that property. But Mr. Ebert would like to retain the use of the workshop. And so he's asked for this lot line adjustment so that can occur. And in reviewing the property, there is a bit of a water course that runs through the property. And so the driveway to the workshop crosses that water course. So rather than relocating the driveway and having to create another crossing of the water course and raise any concerns with respect to the impact on the water course, we would prefer to create a property boundary that would ensure that the driveway would stay where it was. And so that's why the lot configuration is as it's proposed.
No, the region, can't remember where they come, but the Part 3, you'll have enough room there for a septic bed, so we're not interfering with that at all, correct?
That's correct. Both houses have septic fields, and they've been reviewed by the region, and everyone's happy.
Okay, they have town water, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I have no further. Sandra or Brenda, have you had any questions?
I have none.
I have no
Brenda?
questions. I have no questions.
Okay. Sarah, we could close the public portion if you could just see if there's any emails on that.
Yes, certainly. We do not have any pre-registered speakers for this application, and I can confirm that it is 4:25 p.m. and we've received no emails. Therefore, you may close the public portion of the meeting.
Well, I will close the public portion of the meeting. I have no other further comments. I understand now what's being done. I have no. The questions were answered pretty. Gives me a fair idea what is, and I don't see any problem with what these people are asking. So if somebody wants to give me a recommendation, I will accept it and we can vote on it. Okay, go ahead, Brenda.
I'll do a motion. So file B9 2022B for 664 Metler Road. Application for consent, merge part 2 with part 1 is hereby granted. The above decision is subject to the following conditions. To the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works, confirm that no utilities cross the proposed property lines. To the satisfaction of the Secretary Treasurer, that all necessary zoning approvals be obtained for part 3. For part 2 to merge with part 1, to provide the Secretary Treasurer with a solicitor's written undertaking, a registerable legal description, a copy of the deposited reference plan, and the final certification fee of $411 be provided. This decision is based on the following reasons. The application conforms to and complies with the town official plan, the regional policy plan, and the provincial policy statement, and the town zoning bylaw. This decision is rendered having regard to sections 5124, 5125 of the Planning Act. No objections were received. The committee considered all written and oral submissions and finds that, subject to the conditions, the application meets Planning Act criteria, is consistent and complies with provincial, regional, and town planning policy. The applicant is aware future development in or around the watercourse or within 115 meters watercourse buffer may require an NPCA works permit and additional studies.
Okay, thank you. That's a 15-meter water course. I should have asked you, but I didn't. Well, I'll leave it the way it is. Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder?
I will second that.
Thank you, Sandra. So I will put the question to a vote. All those in favor, raise their hand. I see I got, all unanimous, carried. The consent is granted. Thank you. Now, Mr. Bedford, we will deal with the second part, the minor variance, and I would ask Sarah if you would kindly start reading on that part, please.
Yes, absolutely. As the consent file B9 was approved, we'll move to the associated minor variance. Ms. Miller, can you please share the presentation for A13? A13/2022 P664 Metler Road. The subject land is located on the south side of Metler Road, lying east of Balfour Street, known locally as 664 Metler Road. The remnant parcel of the severance resulting from B9/2022P will have a deficient area upon completion of the severance. As such, a minor variance is requested to recognize the reduced frontage. The minor variance application seeks relief from Section 9.2B, minimum lot frontage, seeking a minimum lot frontage of 26.84 meters, where a minimum lot frontage of 36 meters is required. The following comments have been received. From the Building Department, no comment. Public Works, no comment. NPCA, the NPCA does not offer objection to the approval of the applications for this property. The NPCA would advise that should any works be proposed in or around the watercourse or the buffer, works permits would be required from this agency. Applicable studies could be necessary at that time. And again, no public comments were received at the time of writing. Minor variance test number 1 is the minor variance minor in nature. Yes, the requested variance is not anticipated to impact the streetscape or surrounding residential properties. Both of the dwellings are to remain and no new construction is proposed. The reduced The reduction in frontage will continue to provide adequate space for front amenity area and parking for vehicles. Is the variance desirable for the development or use of the land? Yes, the reduced variance would facilitate a boundary adjustment that is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The lots will continue to function as they currently do. No physical development is being proposed through this boundary adjustment. Does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? Yes, the intent of the lot frontage requirement is to provide adequate frontage within which to site a building and provide access. The reduction is not anticipated to have a negative impact on the streetscape or ability to locate a building or provide access to the site, as no new construction is proposed and the lots will continue to function as existing. Does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan? Yes, the official plan designates the lands as rural settlement. The purpose of the rural settlement designation is to recognize the existing settlement of North Pelham as a stable rural service center, which is not a focus area for future growth in the town. Residential uses are permitted, and all development in this designation shall be serviced by private wells and septic systems. No new development is proposed. The proposed application will facilitate a boundary adjustment with a reduced lot frontage for the retained lots and maintains rural settlement nature of the area. Planning staff are the opinion that the proposal makes efficient use of the land, will not result in the overbuilding of the property, will not alter the view, sightlines, or personal enjoyment of the subject property or any neighboring properties, and should not negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood with respect to land use incompatibility, traffic, privacy, or stormwater runoff. In planning staff's opinion, the application is consistent with the PPS and conforms to the provincial, regional, and local plans. Planning staff recommend that application A13/2022P be approved, subject to the following conditions. That the approval of minor variance application A13/2022P is subject to consent file B9 obtaining final certification. If you wish to receive a copy of the notice of decision, please contact the Secretary Treasurer in writing as soon as possible. Holly Wilford, Secretary Treasurer to the Committee of Adjustment, 20 Pelham Town Square, P.O. Box 400, Font Hill, Ontario, LOS 1EO, hwilford@pelham.ca. This contact information can also be found on the Town of Pelham's website.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So this the public. I don't know, Mr. Bedford, what else we can add here. All we have is a boundary changing and nothing else.
Exactly, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. It's a lot line adjustment and nothing, really the streetscape isn't changing whatsoever. And so we would, the proposal meets all the tests of a minor variance. We would ask that the committee approve the minor variance.
Yeah, I can't really make any further comments. I agree. It's just adding a bit of land to another property and another retaining, and and obviously by that, with you don't have any heavy conditions or anything, so it's fairly straightforward for you. So I don't have any further questions unless Sandra or Brenda, have you got any questions? Either one of you? Yes, go ahead, Sandra.
I just Mr. Bedford, just to confirm that I understand this correctly. So this minor variance is triggered as a result of the request for consent, because if the consent wasn't granted, then the existing home would just, it wouldn't need a minor variance because it would be considered legal non-conforming. Is that correct?
So, if the minor variance wasn't granted, then the lot line adjustment wouldn't comply with the zoning bylaw, so it wouldn't proceed. In this particular case, we're making the decision not to move the driveway in order not to negatively impact the creek. If we could meet the zoning if we move the driveway, but we'd prefer to not impact the creek. And as a result, we're asking for the minor variance, and the minor variance itself doesn't, the creation of the smaller frontage of the property doesn't negatively impact the streetscape whatsoever.
Okay, thank you. That answered the next question about the water course in the driveway. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good question. Thank you, Sandra. And Brenda, you're all set on that?
Yeah, no, I think I've heard everything. It's great. She answered the questions.
Okay, then I guess we will close then the public portion of the meeting, and I'll ask if there's been any emails received during the public portions. Sarah, could you please confirm one way or the other?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. We do not have any pre-registered speakers for this application either, and I can confirm that it is 4:35 p.m. and we've received no emails, and you may proceed.
Okay, I have no further questions. I don't see any problem with this unless Sandra or Brenda, and I will ask one of you to please make a motion. Who will make the motion? Okay, go ahead, Sandra, please.
I'm going to make the motion that file A13-2022P 664 Metler Road in Pelham, that the application is made for minor variance, minimum lot frontage of 26.84 meters be granted for the following reasons. The variance is minor in nature as no adverse impacts are anticipated. The intent of the zoning bylaw is maintained. The intent of the official plan is maintained. The proposal is desirable for the land as it will facilitate a boundary adjustment that is compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. This application is granted without prejudice to any other application in the town of Pelham. No objections were received from commenting agencies or abutting property owners. The Committee of Adjustment considered the written and oral comments and agrees with the minor variance report analysis and recommendation that this application meet the Planning Act test for minor variance. The applicant's aware future development in or around the watercourse or 15-meter watercourse buffer may require an NPCA work permit and additional studies. Conditions: that final approval is subject to consent file B9-2022P, obtaining final certification.
Okay, thank you. I will then now call it to a vote. All those in favor of granting this minor variance?
Sorry, through you,
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I do require a seconder for that motion.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
I second
Thank you.
that motion.
Thank you.
Okay, we will, based on that, then the motion is granted. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Bedford.
And thank you, Mr. Chair and committee.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that does bring us to item number 7, being minutes for approval. And we do have one set of minutes from September 7th where all sitting members were present.
All the same members. I'll ask Sandra or Brenda.